Welcome to HFY Stories. Please subscribe to the channel. Your one click means the world to me. The locked-tone shriek hit her audio feed a heartbeat before the muzzles found her chest. 17 weapons. One unarmed woman standing 10 meters outside a kill zone with her hands open at her sides. Lieutenant Crest watched the feed from the observation deck and thought, not for the last time that day, that he was about to witness either the boldest tactical gambit of the cycle or the shortest training record on Xerxes 9. He would tell this story many times afterward to skeptical commanders and to recruits who didn't believe him. He always started here because this was the moment he understood what Earth actually was. 6 hours earlier, Corporal Meyer Reeves had walked off a transport shuttle carrying one duffel bag and nothing resembling nervousness. Crest had pulled her file out of habit. Every human recruit got a glance, mostly because so few of them lasted the week. Age 24. Prior service. 3 years in a homeworld special operations division. He almost closed the file there. Then he found the footnote nobody read. Earth's Paradise World classification carried a pending review flag, filed the day after first contact, and never followed up. Native species exhibits adaptations typically associated with Death World survival. Recommend comprehensive ecological survey. Someone had buried that note under 4 years of easier data. He didn't think much of it until Gorthak. The Vraxian had claimed Reeves's bunk along with half the wall locker, armor stacked across her sleeping platform like he owned the barracks. Crest watched her stand there, count to 4, and inform a warrior who could bench press a ground car that he had 30 seconds to relocate. Gorthak laughed, reached for her skull with one huge hand, and 2 seconds later he was face down on the deck plating with his own elbow hyperextended and his own knife at his throat. She offered the blade back handle first, like she was returning a borrowed tool. Check her file again, Crest told Vatch. He already knew what he'd find. A species that slept 8 hours a day, unconscious and defenseless, on a world where 62 things could kill it while it dreamed. A species with no hive mind, no pheromone network, no claws worth mentioning, that had somehow reached the stars anyway. By the endurance run, the pattern was undeniable. Every other recruit burned themselves redlining for the lead pack. Reeves ran at a fraction of her ceiling, breath even, heart rate calm, and crossed the line having spent almost nothing. When Crest's tactical advisor called it unusual, Crest already suspected the truth. A species that survived cyclones, tectonic collapse, and predators built like nightmares didn't waste output impressing anyone. It saved it for when saving lives depended on it. Then came the team assignment, Reeves paired with 2 keeltones and a Vraxian named Torx, none of whom wanted to hear a word from her. Torx ordered her to guard the equipment. She told him, flatly, that his plan had a 30% chance of working and that she taught small unit tactics for 2 years before he was old enough to hold a blade. The debate lasted 5 minutes. Then, for the first time since Earth joined the initiative, 3 alien warriors sat down and let a human draw the plan. That plan put her outside, the fortress gate with her hands empty and 17 weapons trained on her chest. She didn't flinch when the warning shots cracked over her head. She called out, conversational, that she carried a message from command about their western perimeter, and half the guards turned to look just as 2 keeltone silhouettes went acrobatic across the wall, exactly on cue. In the gap that bought her, she rolled behind cover, put a flashbang 3 meters over their heads, and was through the smoke before their optics cleared. Torx, meanwhile, had wedged himself solid in a drainage culvert 2 sizes too small. When she told him to make noise, he tore the entire pipe assembly out of the wall instead, and the fortress alarms went from urgent to hysterical. She used the chaos to call in a false breach report on the guard's own command channel, pulling the last defenders off the center to reinforce a position that didn't need it, walked into an unlocked emergency override, and had the hostage moving before the smoke from Torx's exit had settled. 43 seconds left on the clock when they hit the extraction point. Perfect score. Then Fane, the instructor whose Vraxian frame had trained soldiers for 15 cycles and buried none of them in sentiment, ran it again. Urban warfare. Ship boarding, 0 gravity. 10 scenarios, 10 perfect scores, and by the 8th run, other teams had stopped their own simulations just to watch. Fane walked down onto the floor himself for the 10th and blocked the exit. "Explain," he said. Reeves didn't blink. "You've been testing us wrong, sir. Every human who came through here before me wanted to prove something. They treated your training like an exam, something with a correct answer. I don't care about correct answers. I care about the objective." She glanced at Torx, at the two Keeltoons still buzzing with adrenaline. "You gave them a test. I gave them a mission. Those aren't the same thing." "Your world is classified paradise," Fane said. "Then the classification's wrong." The silence that followed had weight. Nobody corrected a training instructor on Xerxes 9. Crest broke it over the comm before anyone could recover, feeding Fane the survey data he'd spent 6 hours compiling: the storms, the extinction-grade impact, the predators that could outrun, outlast, and outfight anything on the planet, and the species that had built starships in spite of all of it. "That's not Paradise World data," Crest said. "That's Death World data with good weather." Fane read it in front of the whole cohort, and when he looked up, something in his posture had shifted, like a wall settling onto new footing. "Your species sleeps 8 hours unconscious on a world that never stops hunting you," he said slowly. "And you still call that home." "We didn't get a vote, sir," Reeves said. "We got smart or we died, so we got smart." The objections came fast when Fane announced that humans would lead every mixed team going forward. A chorus of warriors who'd earned their standing through claws and speed and hive coordination. Unwilling to answer to the species, everyone in the room had privately written off as baggage. Fane silenced them with a look that had ended arguments for 15 cycles. "I have watched every species in this room prove itself through strength," he said, and his voice carried to the far wall without amplification. "Today, I watched one human take 3 warriors who had never fought together, who barely tolerate one another on a good cycle, and turn them into the best unit this station has logged in 4 years. She did not outfight them. She did not outrun them. She found what each of them already was, and built a plan around it." He looked at Torx, at Swift and Strike, at the rest of the cohort, still catching up to what they'd just watched. "That is not something we can drill into a recruit. That comes from a world that made cooperation the cost of waking up alive. Learn it from her, or fail your next evaluation trying to learn it the hard way." Crest found Reeves afterward, alone at her bunk, her body finally admitting the fatigue she'd spent all day refusing. He told her what the file had shown him: the biomes, the predators, the gravity that should have killed a species with soft skin and slow legs before it ever reached stone tools, and asked the question that had been sitting in his chest since the intake chamber. How does a species that has to close its eyes for a third of every day survive a world built to kill it the second it stops watching? She thought about it, the ceiling panels above her bunk throwing down a simulated sky from some world she'd never bothered to learn the name of. "You stop trying to survive it alone, sir," she said. "You find someone, anyone, willing to watch while you sleep. Then you do the same for them. Do that enough generations in a row, and you've got a planet doing it for each other. Somewhere in there it starts looking like civilization." Crest sat with that a long moment before he spoke again. "Command will want this written up as an anomaly. One exceptional recruit, one lucky assignment. It won't stay an anomaly, sir. There are 8 billion more of us where I came from, and every one of them grew up on the same world I did." She said it without pride, the way someone reports a fact about the weather. "You're not looking at an exception. You're looking at the baseline." He believed her. He filed his report that way, and Dawn's cycle would prove him right 100 times over before the season was out. Crest left her to rest. On his way out, he glanced back once at the sleeve of her jacket, folded neat over the bunk rail. The same jacket she'd worn walking calm as anything into 17-gun barrels, hands open, betting her life that the people at her back would come through. It was still there in the morning, exactly where she'd left it, folded the same careful way. And within a season, every training class on Xerxes 9 would learn to fold theirs like that too, without anyone quite remembering why.